Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Way of Mastery. And today we're going to be discussing Lesson 18. The highest work is embracing and forgiving your past. So we're just going to dive right in. And right in the first paragraph, we come as those who have sent forth the call to awaken, to heal, to arise, and to welcome love into every dark corner where once the ego had sought its authority. So again, we're finding and we're locating those patterns, those perceptions in ourselves where the ego is taking control, and we're replacing that with love. We're replacing that with divinity, right? Further on down the paragraph that starts with, herein lies the continuation of the theme that we have begun to speak with you about. All of creation waits on your welcome. So in other words, this thing isn't going to happen to you until you engage with it. And that's where Jesuit says, waits on your welcome. And then it continues, it goes, creation doesn't wait for you to swallow you. It doesn't wait to prove to you that you live in an unloving universe. And it goes on with all these different things creation doesn't wait for, that I think is really, really beautiful. And then here's where we start getting really fun. In my opinion, it talks about this, the paragraph that starts, listen very carefully. Creation is utterly powerless. It becomes powerful according to that which you give unto it. Notice what it doesn't say there. It doesn't say what God, what source gives unto it, what you give unto it. This is where we really start going from victim into powerful creator. When all of a sudden you realize, oh, wait a minute. So I can engage in this thing, and therefore I have some authority. I have some agency here. And the answer is yes, you do. And then it goes on to say, it becomes powerful according to that which you give it unto it, the value, the meaning, the purpose, and the function. So it's all up to you, right? And that can be really scary for some people who've never thought about this, and they like keeping the power outside of themselves. But when you finally fully step into your own power, then that changes everything, and that becomes a game changer, right? And at first, yeah, it can be a little bit scary. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. The next section starts off with your only function is to bless creation. It goes on to say the function of the holy child of God remains eternally one, to bless creation and therefore restore to its perfect reflections of God's presence. And so it goes on later in that paragraph. It talks about becoming committed to resting only in loving thoughts. You will discover that illusions are just that. They contain no existence, and you have been resting. You've been resting in the holy mind of God eternally. And so it goes on to say in a paragraph down there, you are then the Messiah, you are then the Christ incarnate, to the degree that you become crazy enough in the eyes of your world to simply assume the truth and become wholly committed to listening to no other voice. In other words, you're listening to this voice within you that's out there blessing it. And so I really, really love that. Further on down, there's a paragraph that says your function is to bless creation with the reality of the love of Christ. Now, further on down, I find this to be very fascinating. And this is, to me, is like, pay attention, Mike, pay attention, Mike, pay attention, Mike, right? The paragraph that starts, it says, creation then waits on your welcome. Further on down that, it says, this requires that you choose to look upon all things in the world and of the world and forgive it. Why? Until forgiveness is genuine, embracing is not possible. And then it goes on to say, and this is really important, to attempt to embrace creation while judgment is still held in the mind merely brings a great frustration. Listen to me. This is the definition of spiritual bypassing. This is the thing that if you look at something and there's massive judgment coming out of you, and there's anger and there's frustration and there's all of this stuff, it's really simple. You just haven't forgiven, right? And that's called spiritual bypassing. That's not healthy. That is not good. And so what Jesus is really saying is, yes, you have, ideally you want to be able to bless everything. But if there's something inside of you that is not okay, that's upset about this thing. There's work there to be done, and don't ignore that. I use a phrase that's called you're putting lipstick on the pig. And what I mean by that is simply you're ignoring what's going on inside of you. And that's bypassing. And believe me, as somebody that has done that in my life, it is not happy, because you're walking around telling everybody how happy you are, and yet inside you're being ripped apart because that's what you think you're supposed to be doing. That is not what you're supposed to be doing. And that is exactly what Jesus Jesuit is saying here. I love this because we're given a tool. It's called forgiveness. And then it says forgiveness is the bridge that brings creation to you, and you to it. So I want to go back for just a second because I missed something that's really important as well. And that's this idea back in up a few paragraphs where it says, your function is to bless creation with the reality of the love of Christ. Yet that blessing will hold no power until you return to the beginning. The beginning is just that state of unknowing, of not knowing, of realizing your complete ignorance. And it's really what that feels like to me is like when I walk around and I go like, in truth, I don't really know what any of this is. I don't know what, as the book says, I don't know what any of this is for. And when you can get to that, as opposed to getting sucked into a judgment about it, you're able to walk into the world and not have any harsh feelings about whatever it is that's going on, whatever it is that you're saying. And so I'm just bringing that point up because you can use this exercise. The truth is, I don't know. And so there's a practice, if you will. I don't know what this is for. I don't know what my brother or sister needs, right? In other words, showing up like I'm going to be neutral here because I honestly don't know. And there is a struggle when you start doing that because your ego is going to want to say, well, I know exactly what this is for. And so the ego wants to be in control. The ego wants to tell you that it knows exactly what's going on. And in reality, often we don't. And so that's the practice. Okay. So then we start getting into the section called cultivating the practice of blessing the world. And further on down, it starts to get into this forgiveness process. And I'm going to read the paragraph that starts off with, beloved friends, looking backwards into time into your seemingly personal experience can seem horrifying. You say, yet I say unto you, the sense of horror that many of you feel is not linked to the memories themselves. It is only linked to that what you have decided to believe about the memory and nothing else. Begin then by forgiving yourself your past. Look upon the objects just as we did with the initial meditation or exercise. Look upon the objects that are the memories of your past and say within your mind, I forgive you. You are perfectly neutral. I choose now to remember you, to remember, to embrace again, that I might bless you. With the blessing, release the terror, the hurt, the judgment, the fear, and the incredible dramas you seem to have dreamt. By releasing the burden of illusion, that memory becomes as a crystal, as a gem given unto you as the part of your infinite journey that seems to be yours, but truly belongs to everyone, transformed, purified, because you brought Christ to illusion that creation might be transformed. And so then Jesus goes on to talk about doing an exercise for the next 30 days where you sit down in your chair and you go through this process, right? And you start off with this, I choose to forgive the creation that will now be brought into my awareness. Holy Spirit, what is in need of my blessing? And then you pay attention to that. You see what comes up. And then object of creation, whatever shows up for you. I forgive you the judgment I've placed upon you, and thereby it is released. Now do I embrace you? And you go through feeling this forgiveness, feeling this releasing, feeling this embracing. And then you say to yourself, I am Christ. And in this moment, I use time in its greatest glory. Beloved object, I bless you. I embrace you. I heal you. How powerful are those words? And how powerful is this process to embrace, to finally bring healing to things of our past that we've held on to, whether it's a person, a place, our parents, our government, whatever, that we're holding on to, that, oh my God, they did this thing. and here's how I feel about it, to finally be able to put it to rest, to finally heal it and transform it and let it go, can be an extremely powerful process. I encourage you to do this. So we get into the section called We Embrace Your Choice for Healing. Just a couple of little nuggets I want to bring up here. I think it's interesting in the section that Jesus starts using the term we, which to me, he's done this before, but now he's really talking about it. And I just find it interesting that he brings up this whole thing, how we're part of a collective, that we really aren't individual, even though it seems like we are. So I find that fascinating in this whole section. He really starts to talk, for example, the one paragraph, we come to you because we love you. You may wish to look upon us and use the term lineage. So again, there's this whole idea of we, and he actually addresses it in that section. Further on in the section, there's a couple of things later in the section, in the paragraph that starts off with, there is no difference because creation holds only one purpose, one goal, one value, healing. And the healing allows the God's holy child. The next paragraph down, never judge yourself by comparison of other. Comparison and contrast are what the egoic mind does so that judgment can result. Judgment of self, judgment of another, so that the dream of separation can continue. If you hear me speak on Sundays, what do I often say? No shame, blame, guilt, or judgment. I always bring up the word judgment because maybe I've gone through this material before, right? Anyways, so that's it on that section. And so we end this section called The Question That Will Determine Your Tomorrows. And I just love this because it's so simple and so powerful and yet so beautiful. Do you recognize that you have already been everywhere and every when in the illusion of separation? Would you be willing right now, in the quiet privacy of your own heart and mind, to use the power of awareness given unto you to decide to be love? It's a simple question. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to let love be lived through you, to let God be lived through you, so that you can just be an expression of it or an expression of the divine? And he ends this section, which I think is so beautiful, in the paragraph that says, we love you and we are always with you. And then at the very end, beautiful are you, radiant are you, innocent are you, powerful are you, eternal are you, free are you, loved are you. We cherish you now and forever. I think it's so beautiful. So you've got your homework. You've got your work cut out for you. Next time, we'll be discussing lesson 19, Surrender, the Dream of the Dreamer. God bless you. Have a fantastic week. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.